Welcome to Everyday Martial Artist, a weekly podcast where you'll join me, Brian Doucette, as I interview a different martial artist each episode and hear their story. Some guests you may have heard of, and some you probably haven't. Be sure to subscribe where all your favorite podcasts are available. Also visit our website at everydaymartialartist.com. If you're listening for a specific interview, I sure hope you'll stay and check out the other episodes. A very special thank you to Topher Williams for our custom theme music. And now, the newest episode of Everyday Martial Artist. Everyday Martial Artist is brought to you by KOOnline.com for all your martial arts needs. Sparring and safety gear, rank belts, uniforms, weapons, patches, and more. Wholesale supplies made by martial artists for martial artists. Visit us today at ko-online.com. Hello and welcome to Everyday Martial Artist. I'm your host, Brian Doucette. And as we do every week, we're joined by a brand new guest talking about their life and their journey throughout the martial arts and other stuff they're involved in. My guest today is not only a martial artist, he's an author and a professor of medical anthropology at the University of Tennessee, Chattanooga. He also previously taught at Harvard Medical School and the New England School of Acupuncture. He specializes in applied medical anthropology with a focus on promoting well-being among vulnerable populations, including veterans with disabilities. He has a brand new book coming out in about a week on July 1st called Adaptive Tai Chi. Please welcome my guest today, Zibin Guo. Did I get that right?
Perfect.
Okay, perfect. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing very well. Thank you, sir.
Nice. Thank you. Seriously, I know I mentioned it before we started recording, but I truly appreciate your time. I know how busy people are, and I love that we're doing this. I'm excited to learn more about you.
Thank you for your time. I'm very excited too.
Well, what we do with all my guests, I want to go back to the beginning. I want to know where that first interest in martial arts came from, that first spark, kind of what kicked off your martial arts journey.
Well, that's a good question. A question that sometimes makes me think. And where was I and what I was thinking. And I was, I think, very, very young, I think around 8 years old. And so there was opportunity, and my parents decided me need to go to do some martial arts training because I guess I was causing problems, troubles, fighting, with the kids in our neighborhood. So anyway, and so my father actually was very, very instrumental and to kind of believe that martial arts can give me a lot of benefit, teaching me a lot of things. And most importantly, I think he believed the discipline and sense of appreciation of human life, basically, and you gotta work very hard and you get overcome and the pain, suffering, all the things. So martial arts, I think back then, martial arts, it's a really have a very high kind of status, and people practice martial arts tend to have that kind of respectable personalities, characters, right? And which is kind of image of a martial artist throughout the world. And martial arts are ones who are able to, do right things and also able to, take on the responsibilities and able to kind of transform from ordinary to extraordinary. So, of course, when I was kids, I didn't know all the things. My father actually was the one that pushed me and supported me and started martial arts training. Luckily, I found a great teacher, and so I start from there. I never gave up.
And what was that first style? Was that Tai Chi, or did you start in a different style?
I started Shaolin.
Nice.
Northern Shaolin is jumping, kicking, Those kind of start when you were young. Those kind of things just fascinating, every day just try to discover your, the body ability, push the envelope, right? Push the kind of high, jump high, kick high. And so that was a lot of fun, but also a lot of kind of, body, you get to experience the different sensations.
Yeah.
Before I remember that I talked to my friends that, and when you get hurt, you always try to tell your parents and say, hey, my body hurts. And, you suppose something wrong, that your parents probably take you to see doctors, right? Mm-hmm. But after martial arts, I said, well, pain completely changed in my perception. is that I intentionally caused pain, right? I mean, the teacher is stretching you, right? I mean, it's pain. It's a
Yep.
painful, and it's really kind of we're creating pain in order to experience this life. So that was my first lesson. I learned about the nature of pain. Pain can be ambiguous,
Yeah.
and not all pain are bad. Some pains are actually the forces of transformation.
And how long did you stay at that first school?
Oh, I stayed for a long, long, long time until I was in high school.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so I stayed for a long, long time, and so when I went to, I think that was a year before I went to university. My goal actually was to become a martial arts teacher.
During those years you were, from 8 until, high school when you were studying Shaolin. Now, did that school you were at, did that style, did you have tournaments at all? Did you do any competitions?
Oh yes, I mean this is so I was in the city team, martial arts team, and back then, all those teams are sponsored by the city government,
Mm-hmm.
and to basically promote public health, right? They have that kind of teams and competitions, provincial competitions, regional competitions, and also demonstrations, and to promote that kind of traditional martial arts. So I was likely be selected to the team, and so every year there will be competitions and holidays and special occasions, give demonstrations. So that was a very, very good to me. It's one of the best memories I have, traveling all over the places. And so until I went to a university,
Mm-hmm.
and I began to study the internal martial arts.
You mentioned, before that you had dreams already at that point to become a martial arts teacher. So when you were in Shaolin, did you start teaching there, or did the teaching come later for you?
Well, I went to university, actually the university, and the purpose for me to go to university is to become a martial arts teacher.
Oh, okay.
And back then, the universities have a martial arts majors, right, and study martial arts, basically theories and teaching methods, so on and so forth. And I think before then, I had an injury.
Mm.
I injured my back pretty seriously. So, and somehow I realized that, to become that kind of martial artist, jumping, kicking, like a Jet Li and that
Yeah.
kind of style is almost impossible. And so because of the back injury. So I was, pretty kind of confused on what I was going to do with myself. So that time, my masters introduced me to a Tai Chi master, and so that was then I began to understand the power of Tai Chi. The funny story, and I also shared in the book.
Mm-hmm.
And when you were 16 and 15, you know martial art, the Shaolin style, jumping, kicking. You can turn basically 375 degrees around both legs, kicking 5 times, right?
Yep.
You realize you kind of see yourself as the most able guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when you see people doing Tai Chi slow, and you say, what is that? So I know Tai Chi a long time ago. I watch people doing it. Many of them, of course, people say they're elderly because they retired, right? And they have all the time doing Tai Chi in the park. But early in the morning, a lot of young people are doing that too, but I did not see them. I saw a lot of old people. So to me, and the Tai Chi was really kind of for grown-ups, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you're 16 and 15, anybody over 20 is old people,
That is true.
right?
Yep.
And so I saw, oh, no, it's not for me. I'm too powerful for that. So when my master and said, you can learn internal martial arts. I like the martial arts aspect, but internal, I did not quite understand it. So I said, what is that? And my master says, well, Tai Chi. I said, well, Tai Chi, no. I don't think I want to do that. That's for grown-ups, right? That's for old people. So then he introduced me to the Master Xu, who taught Tai Chi in the park. And so I was introduced to him one day. And so Master Xu saw me kind of skeptical energy, right? Inside of me. He can sense it. And he says that, have you tried Tai Chi before? I said, no. I know Tai Chi. I saw, many people doing Tai Chi, but never did it. He says, have you learned and Tai Chi actually is martial arts? I said, I heard, but never seen how it works. He says, all right, come push me. I think then he was probably around 60s.
Oh, wow.
60 years old. I mean, to me, he's so old, right? I mean, 60 years old. I thought I heard something wrong, right? He said, come to push me. I said, what? He said, yeah, come to push your hands on my shoulder and just to give all you got, push me. I said, there must be a trick, right? It must be a trick. It must be something that set me up, right? Because come on, I don't want to hurt you, right? And even though I injured, but I can push. I got a lot of power. I can punch, right? And so he said, come on, push me. I was still hesitated. So my master says, go ahead, push him. And, I was just confused. I was just confused. And my goodness, right? I mean, is it real? But anyways, all of his students are many of them my age and some of them older, and they're all standing behind, around. They all laugh at me, feel like, So I decided, okay, all right, maybe just some kind of a show, right? I have to go through the process. And so I went there and, put my hands on. I think he was standing like a very small bow stance.
Okay.
With one leg in front, another leg is back, but you don't even notice that there's a stance, right? He just kind of stand there very naturally. And so I put my hands on his shoulder and I just give it maybe 20% of my power, right? Yeah. Because I did not want to hurt him. That's what I was thinking.
Got to respect your elders.
That's right.
Exactly.
But he did not move. And everybody laughed. And so he says, what happened? You did not have breakfast? So then I was a little bit of uncomfortable. And because I thought, I try to give you a face, right? I try not embarrassing you, right? So I just gently, I pushed you. You did not even appreciate it, but make fun of me. And so that time, my emotion got a little bit off my head. And then, my master and wasn't kind of too excited about it. Said, hey, come on, give it a push. Just feel it, right? So then I said, okay. And I went to him. I said, I'm going to give you a push. So I probably used, a lot of power, right? Maybe 70% power. So the moment I pushed him, I feel his body is yanking backwards, right? Because I can feel. And, when you push something moved backwards, you can feel it. I said, and I'm going to hurt him, right? But next thing I know, my body was moving backwards. My own body moving backwards. And I was just kind of stumble backwards. Then finally with my butt sitting on the grass and rolling backwards. And I quickly jumped up, stood there. I tried to figure out what happened, right? And of course, everybody was laughing. And his students, he didn't laugh, but his students all standing there laughing. It's kind of, very, very embarrassing, but it's not embarrassing. It's a very humble moment of life because suddenly my perception about martial arts completely changed.
Yeah.
Completely changed because before then I was thinking martial arts are how quick you can kick, right? How powerful you can throw a punch, how accurate you can hit somebody, right? And all those things. Power, right? Fast. But I never seen that coming. Not just that, is that I almost feel like nothing happened. But I end up sitting on the floor, on the ground. I didn't know what happened. But so that was the day I started Tai Chi training.
Wow. That's actually cool. I had a slightly similar story. I had a friend who was looking into martial arts, and I was helping him just tour schools. And we went to a Okinawan school. And during the class, we were just watching, and the instructor was talking about pressure points. And my friend was just kept shaking his head. He didn't believe in pressure points. I'm like, no, just pay attention. And after the class, we were talking to the instructor, and he was talking about pressure points. And my friend kind of laughed. And the instructor's like, he walked up to him like he was just going to put his hand on his shoulder to talk to him. He's like, no, listen. And he like pushed on the spot on his shoulder with his thumb, and my friend's leg went completely numb and he fell down. And I started laughing.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
my friend was a believer after that. So
yeah, well, you have to. I mean, this is when you grew up with that kind of knowledge everywhere. People has the ability to touch you a little bit, and you feel like, oh, what happened to my arm?
yeah,
And what happened? You really, and sometimes you realize the body is fascinating. And so what I learned, and from the Master Xu, and eventually is that it's all your mind.
yeah,
Your mind. Your mind can become your own enemy, right? I mean, that is exactly what happened in Tai Chi, push hands, because it is about how you're able to embracing changes, right? You create changes, people react to changes, then you embrace the changes, and then you unify them to become your own energy. So when you have push hands, when you have some kind of encounter, and it's all about how to make your opponents become disorientated, right?
right.
And how do you make a opponent become uncool? Right. So the more uncool, more emotional, more anger that your opponent is, and the more likely you become successful.
Right.
And so soon, the moment you lose your mind, you lost yourself.
Right.
So that is a kind of which is it's a slightly different than the Shaolin style I learned. Right, Shaolin style, of course, all martial arts, emphasize the mind, but there are techniques, there are movement and methodology, focus on the physical body, right, and how quick, right, how powerful you can throw a punch, and where acupressure, right, Qin Na, for example, is all about hit to the right point, right, and right joint. But Tai Chi is very different. It's not about specifics. It's about a unity. It's about the whole picture. It's about make fragments apart to become one.
Nice.
So it's not only make yourself become a unity, but make your opponents become a unified object without the opponents to realize it. Right? So that is the way you're able to move them without notice.
Nice. How long did you stay with that instructor?
Oh, I stayed with him a long time ago. I mean, for many years until he moved to Canada.
Okay.
Back in early 80s. But I just learned so much from the master. Of course, when I went to university, I began to, purposefully study the theories and understand the classics and I Ching, Yin Yang, and Chinese medicine, and the idea of a flow. It's all about flow.
Yeah.
And the idea about the unity, the ideas about in the mind. And so I also, I run into a lot of ordinary people with extraordinary abilities, and of course, martial artists and Tai Chi masters. So, and so that is kind of my general journey, and try to understand the idea of power. So, and later on, I, came to America. I study, actually, when I came to America, I was hoping to study, medicine, sports medicine.
Oh, okay.
And so because influenced by Chinese medicine and by the whole idea of mind, energy, right? So I feel like sports medicine would be a very, very good kind of, profession for me. And I like to work with people. But then, of course, I kept my martial arts teaching and practicing. And through the whole, some 30 years and journey, and have met a lot of people and learned a great deal from them. So that is kind of the story of my martial arts practice.
You've been teaching for quite a while. So over all those years, what do you think has changed about your teaching style over that time?
Well, it's a very, very good question. It's a great question. It is something that I've been thinking about. It's not just, because I later on, after I graduated, get a master's degree, I was introduced to medical anthropology and anthropology in general. And so I find it fascinating about anthropology, especially cultural anthropology, is that give me some idea about any arts, traditional arts, and traditions and practices. And oftentimes they come and goes, right? And doesn't matter how great art was, right? Back 100 years ago, 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago. But if you ask today, people have no clue about it. So, however, there are many arts, right, survived, despite of the social cultural changes. The martial arts is one of them, right? Yeah. Martial arts is one of them. And, other day, I was, a few years ago, I was teaching cultural anthropology. I asked my students, how many of you use the typewriters? They all laughed, look at me and said, oh my God, Professor, you didn't look that old. Right? One student commented and got joked. But so typewriter, I remember typewriter is such a high, item when I was graduate students, right? I mean, it's very expensive. Everybody needs typewriter, writing up papers, everything. That's your life, right?
Yeah.
So important. But today, no one uses it, right?
Yeah.
But there are a lot of arts, operas, dancings and instruments. They come and goes, right? You have to really make efforts to help them to continue to develop. But reason for that, because it lost its original function. Right. Now, martial arts, talking about martial arts. Well, martial arts was originated from survival, right? To help us survive. Martial arts is a way of overcoming, right? Yep. Overcoming all kinds of challenges. Animals, right? Enemies, and people want to take your territory, right? People see something you have and they don't have, they want to have it, right? And it was a way of life. Yeah. But martial arts no longer able to serve that purpose. Doesn't matter how we think about, I can kick, I can punch, I can hurt, I can throw how many pounds of power, but there is no place for people to actually use it. Well, there are time to time, people say, I use my martial arts to help somebody. Yeah, this happens. But for most people, martial arts practices and no longer serve that function. But why? It continues to survive universally. Once that universally is that throughout cultures, right? People look at martial arts, still have great respect, right? And the martial arts continue and contributing to the social well-being, right? Yep. Because the form of opponents have changed. Okay. I believe, as anthropologist, I see as society become more complex, right? As we have now, and our mind become also complex. That complexity oftentimes creates all kinds of stressful experiences, right? And burdens and worries, right? And so requires human to it's that kind of needs to able to calm down, to be disciplined, to be unified, right? So we can deal with the complex life. Right. So martial arts able to serve that purpose. It's not to fight, go to a bar, see who is in trouble, who is causing trouble. I'm going to fight with them. No, it is all within ourselves. So the martial arts training, those wisdom, those principles, ideas continue to serve in a very, very different way. So therefore, for example, I also learned boxing. And, I also learned the sanda, which is, fighting. Yep. the coach, when they teach you this, they have complete different objectives, different strategy, right? Different philosophy.
Yep.
And because they want to train you as a machine, as powerful as you can, so you can win. You can go to a tournament and be ranked, right?
Yep.
So simple as that. It is all about, but however, I'm through the training, there are a lot of self-realizations. You have to overcome those fears, right? You have to overcome those hardships. So our mind and have to be powerful in order to go through those brutal trainings, right?
Right.
And also prepare yourself and publicly and either, become a hero, you won, or humiliating yourself, beat up, right? Terribly, right? By others, which happens all the time. So all those things still require the mind to be able to deal with those extraordinary challenges.
Right.
So now the extraordinary challenges, the form of those challenges have changed. No longer at the stadium, no longer at the stage fighting somebody, is within.
Yeah.
There's so many opponents inside our brain every day, right?
Right.
Make decisions and worries and road rage, for example, right? Road rage. Somebody cut you off. Somebody do this. How you deal with yourself? So the enemy is all created by ourselves. So therefore, when you teaching martial arts today, right? Of course, the methods will be still same, but the approach should be very different. Right. I mean, so if I keep teaching students, wow, this is when people, hold your neck, right? Because once actually, student asked me, says, that sounds very terrible because making me feel like I always anticipating people punching me.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, a student actually said to me, that was a long time ago, because why do I have to always practice someone, hands on my neck? Right.
Right.
But for me, that was like so natural, right? Teaching Qinghua, right? How you able to use that and knock some out, right? But to him, it says to have the image was horrible.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, it is so true. If you teach something, people expecting to use them, right?
Yeah, definitely.
But anyway, so that's everybody's different. Everybody's different. But my point is this: is that the philosophy and the object, the purpose of martial arts training already very, very different.
Definitely.
Very different. Last year, I was invited by the UNESCO and ICM. ICM is International Center of Martial Arts. And its organizations and under UNESCO. And the organization, the philosophy, the purpose of the organization is how to apply the martial arts and to empower the children and women and with disabilities and victims of war, domestic violence, so on and so forth throughout the world. So the thing is that not to teach them to fight, rather than to teach them to become strong, right?
Yeah.
To become confident, so they can dealing with those challenges that in modern time. So it's not the challenges someone trying to punch you, someone trying to fight with you, right? It's very, very different. So the challenges not only overwhelmed in modern society, but also the nature of challenges is completely different.
Definitely, yeah.
So therefore, how can we use that idea, right? Use that martial arts to help modern people, right, to deal with life that is arts. So they celebrate the conference that, celebrate, martial arts, including Tai Chi, has been enlisted as one of the, what they call the human cultural treasures, right? And by UNESCO. But the idea thing is that what other kind of cross-cultural values do martial arts able to satisfy, able to contribute, right?
Right.
Why is that? Because why internationally, cross-culturally, every society, every people love, not everybody, but every society, martial arts is one of the most popular sports.
True.
Or practices, right? So even though we are different, we're different people, live a different life, a different, ecological, environmental, different, political, different cultural, but all people seem to enjoy martial arts. Why?
That's a good question. Yeah.
That is a great, great question. So I think that is something as a martial artist or scholars, we need to really understand
Mm-hmm.
because from my perspective, and martial arts, the development of martial arts actually is a result of human vulnerabilities,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
If you think about why do we need a martial arts in the first place, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why? Well, because we're vulnerable. People says, what do you mean human vulnerable? Well, we're smart. We can do a lot of things. I said, well, yes, we can, but doesn't matter how fast you think you can run. You can't run with a dog,
Yeah.
right? And with a tiger, we even have a hard time to catch a chicken, right? Sometimes.
Yeah.
Right? That's a lot of martial arts trainings, right?
Say Rocky did it. Come on.
That's right. That's right. Go get chicken. But so if you think that we're jumping high, I mean, we know we can't jump as high as a lot of animals, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we swim. I mean, can you swim with a shark and a fish, right?
No, don't want to.
No, we can't. But so if we, and as human, as an individual, we cannot survive one day in the nature world.
Yeah.
Because we are so vulnerable. But what we have is the mind.
Right.
Right? I mean, doesn't care how strong you are. You can lifting 250, whatever, right? Not only there are people powerful than you, but you cannot compare the capacity of human and in terms of, the strength with other beings, right?
Definitely.
Nature, for example. We're helpless. But what we have is a mind. The mind, what kind of mind? Mind is fluid, able to allow us to collaborate, to work together, to develop a strategy so we can survive. So martial arts, actually, from our perspective, was one of the early strategies our pioneers discovered. How do we fight with the powerful animals, right?
Mm-hmm.
We got to understand animals. There are weaknesses, there are vulnerabilities, right?
Yep.
What are we good at? What can we do? So martial arts from the very, very beginning is a product of human vulnerability and wisdom.
Definitely.
So therefore, and I think that how can we continue let martial arts to serve, right? And human survival, continued survival, and is a very, very kind of important task, right? Because this is something that we have been really have different views. I mean, everybody have different views about the purpose of practicing martial arts, idea of martial arts, and the product. What is the way to measure a good martial artist, right? Today, how we measure them? Well, did you win championship, right?
Mm-hmm.
And who did you beat up, right?
Yep.
So how many tournaments did you go, right?
Mm-hmm.
But those have nothing to do with martial arts,
Right.
right? It's a social construction of sports. But martial arts is not about tournament. It's not about competitions. It's about cultivation.
Okay.
So the adaptive Tai Chi, how I was enlightened by Tai Chi, is because Tai Chi serves a perfect metaphor to demonstrate the point we just talked about it, the vulnerable nature of human. Right? But yet, vulnerability is not something can be seen as a flaw. Actually, is something transformable. Transformable means that can become a sources of strength.
Right.
Because without human vulnerability, there will be no martial arts, right?
Yeah.
And so Tai Chi is based on that wisdom, is that what is the most powerful thing? Most powerful thing is not a rock, right?
Right.
I oftentimes use that kind of scenario to demonstrate the differences between internal martial arts and external martial arts.
Okay.
So people say, well, what is internal? What is external, right? And it's everybody have different way to explain it, and they're equally beautiful. So I kind of like to use that kind of analogy. I said, well, okay, so if you have a rock in your hands, and you give a permission to throw the rock onto a door, in your house, the door, and from distance, of course, and throw at the door. Oh, okay, parents will give you permission to do it.
Yeah.
Now, you're going to make damage to the door.
Yep.
right? Well, the degree of damage will be determined by how hard the rock is, right?
Mm-hmm.
How fast and how much power you use to throw the rock,
Yep.
right? And also determined by the quality of the doll,
True. Yep.
right? But eventually, if you are so powerful, you go to the gym, 8 times a week, right?
Mm-hmm.
You never take a break. Right? You get a lot of big muscles, and you say, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna probably my rock gonna go through the doll." Yes, it's possible. All right. Now, if you are going to use exactly the same rock, use exactly same amount of power and speed, throw it onto something not as strong as a doll,
Mm-hmm.
but throw onto a blanket. A blanket hang there.
Yep.
Now, here's interesting. Now, if you bump your head onto the door by accident, oftentimes you probably will bust your forehead, right?
Yep.
And so that is hard because the door is hard, right? But if you bump your head onto a blanket hanging there, nothing can happen, right?
That is true.
So now, if you throw a rock onto a blanket, what's going to happen to the blankets? Of course, the answer is nothing, because the rock will just fall right under the blankets, right? The blankets will yield, will absorb the power, and here it is.
Yeah.
So here it is. Why something similarly strong and hard, but easy to be broken, but something similarly so weak, soft, gentle, but very difficult to be broken.
Yep.
So that is the wisdom of internal martial arts. So the blankets is the internal martial arts at work.
Okay.
Right? And the doll is a metaphor for external martial arts.
I've never heard it explained that way before. I like that.
Yeah, because I found that is kind of, of course, sometimes oversimplified, but make the point, right?
Yeah.
Make a point. It's not perfect, but make the point.
Definitely.
And so therefore, the Tai Chi practices, when I began to work with people with disability, and I realized, Tai Chi is about disability. If you think about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
One say disability is a social concept, right? Social construct concept. What is ability? What is disability? And after 2008, the wheelchair Tai Chi program I developed was primarily during the 2008 Paralympics. And, whenever I give a talk and about, wheelchair Tai Chi, people ask me, says, you are not in a wheelchair. Why you come up? How you come up with this idea? And I have a true story. So back at the early years when I just arrived here, I was in Connecticut and going, graduate school.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in graduate school, and also I teach martial arts, Tai Chi on the side, and meet friends and, make some money. And so one day I got a call and from a gentleman, his name is Paul. And he says that, I read all the Chinese classics and long time ago, the Art of War, I Ching, all the things. I was fascinated, always fascinated about those ideas, always want to learn Tai Chi, but never had the opportunity. And I heard in town, you teach Tai Chi, would you offer me a private lesson?
Mm-hmm.
I said, of course, it'd be great. And love to. So we decided, okay, and we're going to start the classes next week. And he works off his own basement, his house. He was a writer and, freelance writer. So he works off his basement. And he said, I will leave my door open. And, and when you go into my house and basement door to the right side, open it and just give me how I will come up. I said, great. So just about I hung up a phone. He said, oh, by the way, I'm a blind. I said, what? And he said, I hope you don't have a problem teaching people with disability. I said, oh, no. I said, first of all, I never taught anybody, Tai Chi who's blind. Secondly, I never seen anybody who doing Tai Chi who's blind, right? Except in the movies, right? Yeah. And he laughed. He says, I know that's why I want to have a, private class. Because, just talk to me, right? Talk to me. I'm a very good listener and I want to learn, right? So, but no pressure, right? Mm-hmm. And so don't worry about, just talk to me. And I thought, well, okay. And that will be interesting, right? And so anyway, I agreed. And next weekend, the day I traveled to his house, and found the door, open it, and found the basement door, open it. Of course, was, basement, go downstairs, stairs goes down, and was pitch black. So I look around, and there are a bunch of switches, and, but I didn't know which one was the light switch, right? And so I did not want to, break anything. And so I said, "Hey, Paul, this is Zibin. I'm here, and where is the light switch?" Because knowing him, he's a blind guy, I did not want him to walk up. I would walk down, right?
Yeah.
And so he said that, why do we need light for? I was 24. And, when you were 24, early 20, 24, 25, you feel like you're on top of the world, right?
Yep.
You practice martial arts for all the years, and you're fearless, and you never associate disability with you, right?
Right.
But that moment, I feel like, oh, wow, he does not need lights down there. I need to. Lights is assistant device.
Yep.
Right? But there was a very, very humble, but great inspirational moment. I suddenly realized, yes, I think he's very smart guy. He did it purposely, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to make me feel humble. And I mean, of course, he's blind, and I'm here teaching him. But then he let me realize we're equal in many, many ways.
That's
right?
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, so that is a kind of, my journey began to realize the functionality of martial arts and the nature of human. And so anyway, and he's a great guy. We hang out in a couple of weeks, and he fought a few times. After that, I feel like, I could not teach him. I could not. I didn't have the experiences. And, Tai Chi was not what he think, right? Without the visual, and it's very difficult. And, but that time I spent with him, he's such a smart, intelligent guy, knowing so much. And, oftentimes I see him talking about the world affairs, the philosophy, and arts, and American culture, and all those things. I forgot, that he is a blind guy. So after that experiences, I feel very terrible. I said, he really, really wanted to learn Tai Chi, but I couldn't teach him. But eventually, I think there was another, 1988, there was the Winter Olympics. I was sitting in my apartment and watching, figure skating. As I was watching, suddenly a crazy idea and come to mind. I said, well, what if the athletes and don't have the skates with them? Can they jump?
Yeah.
Of course, they cannot jump. I mean, I know how cold in the ice, when you're walking on the ice, be careful, you're going to fall, right? Everywhere.
Yep.
Right? So then I began to realize, well, why is it we don't call people wear skates disabled? But wheelchair, if you use wheelchair, obviously you're disabled, right? That's the kind of common perception. And so then I went to library, and a few days later, try to look for kind of literatures about origin of skates, and things was originally developed for people who in need of travel, right?
Mm-hmm.
During the snow, and live in the very, very cold Siberia, northern China, and all those cold places like Minnesota, I think.
Yep.
55 below zero, and with snow everywhere. What are you going to do if somebody got sick, right?
Yeah.
Something happened. You need able to travel to find their neighbors. So people develop, start, with using animal bones and so on and so forth. That eventually evolved and become a recreational activity, right? Sports that people do in the wintertime, snow, they just wear this. So evolve, become our sports. The reason it becomes sports because, they can use that system device and make the body moving beautifully.
Right.
With power,
mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So now, and wheelchair, if we have a wheelchair Tai Chi, right? To integrate the wheelchair movement, become part of Tai Chi movement.
That's cool.
That would be very, very cool, right? That's exactly. I was so excited, and I think there was a paper, and I studied sports medicine and therapy, so I wrote a paper about it, and I typed it. Unfortunately, I don't have the copy now. There was no computer yet in 1988. And but always stuck with me. And I said, wow, wheelchair would be such a cool idea and to use in Tai Chi, because then we can see the completely transformation of the body,
right,
the functional body. But anyway, so that is a kind of examples, and I oftentimes use to demonstrate how those traditional arts, how can we make the traditional arts continue, right? If we stuck everything, back to origin, people argue, oh, this is not traditional. And what is traditional? What is traditional? What do you mean not traditional? Of course, all those things are traditional, the concept, the idea, but the methods, the approach, right?
Yeah.
And even the way of moving your body changes as well because of the social, cultural context have changed.
Right.
Right. But the idea, the principles are timeless.
Yeah.
That's why, and the martial arts continue to become a very kind of effective way for us to empowering. Right.
Right. That's really cool. So then, talking about the book a little bit now, you mentioned it a few times and stuff. So it's coming out on July 1st, so just a week after this episode comes out. What do you want people to get out of the book? What interest do you think? I mean, obviously it's adaptive Tai Chi, but what interest would it be to someone who doesn't study Tai Chi?
Well, it doesn't start. That's okay though, and but it's a kind of book. I have 1 hour. I was very, very excited. The whole process of writing is very, very exciting. It's not just reflecting 20 years of work and developing, implementing wheelchair adapted Tai Chi and the program for all the world. But most importantly, is really my self-realizations about understanding humanity and understand the nature of human and also the nature of cultural wisdom such as martial arts. Right. And as we talk about it. So in other words, I had some years ago, I had a conversation with another podcast. Actually, it's a really, really kind of targeted for the well-being of physicians.
Okay.
And because I said physicians are vulnerable, right? Yeah. Firefighters are vulnerable. Police officers, they're vulnerable, right? A lot of attorneys are vulnerable, right? I mean, we all are vulnerable.
Yes.
Right. So there is that sometimes people, mental distress is skyrocket, right? I mean, in terms of the prevalence of mental disease and human sufferings, it's continuing rising up, right? Mm-hmm. And suicide, and all very, very young. So what happened, right? What happened is that we began to really, really become part of our society in terms of our mind become even more fragmented.
Right.
Fragmented means that kind of between not related different parts, because our politics, our economic things, our ethics and morality and things, everything can be opposite, right? Mm-hmm. Everything can be confusion. You have to be very, very we have to make a lot of efforts.
Yeah.
So that is why that make us become vulnerable, not physical. Physical we always, but it's our mind. So therefore, Tai Chi is idea, right? Like many other, traditional arts, yoga, many other Pilates, and a lot of fitness program popular today. They serve a purpose. But this book is really kind of use Tai Chi as an example to illustrate those points. The first point is that we are vulnerable, but vulnerabilities can be sources of empowerment.
Definitely.
But only if we consciously making efforts, right?
Right.
And the adaptive Tai Chi is not the wheelchair, like I said, the wheelchair Tai Chi is not just about sitting in the wheelchair doing Tai Chi, right? Mm-hmm. That's cool too. But it's really about how do we able to change the functionality of a wheelchair, make the wheelchair become part of the movement. In other words, to embracing something similarly negative.
Okay.
To transform them into something positive.
Yeah.
So I think that's exciting part for me was a very exciting. How can we make challenges into something that we feel blessed to have?
Mm-hmm.
So this book is using the 5 different modalities of practice. For example, sitting, standing, and walking in the wheelchair and all single movements.
Mm-hmm.
Is demonstrate regardless our body conditions, right?
Right.
They are equally effective to be used as a platform to engage in physical, psychological, social well-being.
Okay.
To create a sense of beauty, grace.
That is cool. And how long did you work on the book? Did you decide to write it like 2 years ago and start writing it, or was it like a 5-year project?
Well, this is a kind of 20 years ago I began to work and for the prepare for the 2008 Paralympics.
Yep.
And develop that thing. And of course, along which I'm an anthropologist, and oftentimes I will present a paper and writing articles.
Okay.
So over the years, I have accumulated a lot of my work stories and studies.
Yeah.
And then get funded by the Department of Veterans Affairs, right? Adopted sports program for 7 years to implement the program and throughout U.S. VA healthcare system. And so in which 7 years and last 7 years, I have connected a lot of great stories, enlightenment, and learned so much. So writing them up is something that I always want to do.
Okay.
And that was about 3 years ago. And I began to kind of and work with Shambhala and publish publications and begin to work on the book, make them into what it is now.
That's cool. That gives me a little hope. I started writing my first book back in October, but I'm only about 20 pages in. So if I can, so I'll give myself a 3 to 5 year goal. Maybe we'll see.
No, you don't need that. 20 pages. 20 pages is great. I'm sure every points you made, 20 pages, but condensed, right? You can spin off and write a lot of stories.
Yeah.
And I say for me, I like stories.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of theories, plenty of theory, plenty of and concept things, but stories are such a powerful way to convey a very complex concepts, right?
Agreed.
Into something real.
Yep. So over your martial arts career, over your whole life, is there one philosophy you've learned that's at the top of your list, like super important to you?
Well, and stand like a tree, sit like a mountain, and flow like a river.
I like that. I've never heard that one. I'm gonna write that one down.
Yeah, right. I mean, that is really, really, I mean, so this is a kind of interesting because, why flow like a river, right? Stand like a tree is good.
Yep.
Stand like a tree, sit like a mountain, mountain, when I, talk to people about wheelchair, so why, a wheelchair, Tai Chi, well, I said sitting can be very powerful.
Yep. Right?
Mountain is sit there.
Yeah.
It's an energy. Tree is powerful. When we look at a tree, we don't feel like, you cannot be moved. You have lack of mobility. I don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
We don't. We see a big tree, we feel like, wow, powerful. Why? Because the spirit, the energy, the mind. So therefore, the body condition is just body. It's a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it does not have the spirit. Once you have a spirit, you can transform anything.
Nice.
So therefore, the flow like river is a way of engagement, right?
Yeah. So
life is about engaging and flow with it. And without engagement, life lost its purpose, right? Mm-hmm. So therefore, flowing is dynamic. You want to be centered, but you also want to be engaged.
Right. All right. So are you a fan of something like MMA and the UFC? Is that something you watch and enjoy or no?
No.
Okay.
I'll watch them. I watch them in jiu-jitsu, Brazil jiu-jitsu. I mean, I love them. I love the arts of it. But I think, to me is I think I would be probably even more and fascinated if I, back to 30, 40 years ago, right?
Yeah, definitely.
I probably will give a try.
Yeah.
But now I know I don't have that. I don't have.
Of course not.
I get. I don't think I'm able to survive.
Yeah.
With those youngsters, right?
That makes sense. All right. I have a few fun questions we use to wrap up the interview. Well, now we were just talking about like the UFC. So let's say 30 years ago, you decided you were going to do it. You were going to get into that cage. What walk-up music are you going to use? What songs playing as you're walking into the cage?
Oh, have you watched the old classic, the movie Shaolin Temple? Jet Li actually made Jet Li become famous.
Oh, yes. I think so. Yeah. Yes.
That is a song there.
Oh, I'll have to rewatch that and listen.
Yeah. Shaolin, Shaolin. It's really when I hear that music, I just feel like I pumped up.
Yeah.
It's everything in my head.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that. It's about mountains. It's about but it's just kind of a song that a music that give me sense of empowerment. I'm impressed with the nature.
Okay, I like it.
Yeah,
that's cool. That's a good answer. All right, who are 3, 4, 5 names you would put on your personal Mount Rushmore of martial arts?
Well, of course, Bruce Lee.
Okay,
and now, of course, I really enjoy Jackie Chan.
Yes, I love Jackie Chan.
This guy make martial arts so fluid, right?
Yes.
I mean, Bruce Lee has different styles, right? And even though he had Jeet Kune Do has, talked about fluid, but Jackie Chan made the martial arts, the martial arts movement become very, not just fluid, but also humor, right?
Yes,
Humoristic is kind of fun. And I have to also mention about Jet Li because we're contemporary, and we trained exactly the same school, and we grew up and basically doing the exactly some social, cultural, and conditions and circumstances.
Okay,
so we share a lot of things in common.
Nice. That's a really good Mount Rushmore. I like it. All right, now this one you can't pick your own, but favorite martial arts book.
Oh, and the Book of Our Rings.
Oh, I love it. Nice.
Yeah.
I thought when I started asking that question, I thought that one would get picked a lot more. It's been picked a good amount, but I thought that would get picked a lot more. I saw you behind you on your bookshelf. I saw the Art of War back there. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Art of, it's another classics, yes. And but enjoying and people talking about the strategies, right?
Yep. Definitely.
And oftentimes strategies is really based on the spirit, right. It's not really about what you do, right? Of course, there's important what you do, but it's really about can you do when you don't want to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. This one you may not have an answer for. It's about 50-50 with my guess, but did you have a favorite martial arts video game? Did you ever get into video games?
No.
Okay.
No. I never get an opportunity to be introduced to martial arts and a game.
Okay.
No,
That's okay. That's okay. How about a favorite martial arts TV show?
There is when I grew up, and the Japanese, I forgot the name of it. It's about judo.
Oh, really?
And it's made probably early 80s.
Really?
Yeah, it's a long series TV show. It's I don't know how many, but we watched every night. It's like wow. Huh. It's a judo. What's the name? I forgot. But I was very, very young. That was one of the great movie. Of course, then there are a bunch of Chinese, martial arts. Huang Fei Hong. Talk about He Jiaquan that doing the back in the early 19th centuries.
I'll have to see if I can find out which one that is because that sounds interesting. So
yes, it's a great TV show. Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, how about a favorite martial arts movie?
Oh well, and I liked a lot of course, Shaolin Temple. I mentioned that's one of early one.
Yep.
The Tai Chi Master and made early 1990s.
Yep.
By Jet Li, also very good. First time for me is the first time make Tai Chi become very, very kind of martial arts.
Yeah. Yep.
And in a way, because before that, Tai Chi is martial arts, Tai Chi is mind and body healing arts, right? But that movie, I found very successful in terms of delivering the message.
Yep.
And I really enjoyed it.
Cool. Nice. Yeah, that's a good one. All right. Final question. This one doesn't have to be a martial arts movie. Any movie you've seen in your whole life, favorite movie fight scene?
Oh well, I like the when he made a bunch of movies, Steven Seagal,
Yep.
and come back, from use his Aikido skills, and especially early on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I really, really enjoyed it. It's a stories to me was I forgot I mixed the story, but I just that the body movements, the sense of flow, and I really, really kind of impressed.
That's cool. Old Steven Seagal stuff from the 80s, early 90s. I love it. Like hard to kill, Above the Law, Under Siege.
That's right.
Yeah, some great stuff in there. So that's really,
right.
really cool.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, sir, before I let you go, is there anything I forgot to ask you, or you want to be sure we get out there? And like I said, when the episode comes out, I will put links, for your website, for your book and everything else, and we'll promote it and hopefully get lots of people to buy it. But anything last minute we want to mention quick?
No, we covered a lot, and it's great conversation, great chat with you. I really, really appreciate it. And, I wish you the best. And this is a great program. I really think that your show really have a great potential in terms of really, like I said, how martial arts and continue to strive, right? And thrive and even through the modern world, right? And because it somehow serves something and to benefit the human and continue survival. So
thank you. Seriously, that means a lot. I truly appreciate it. I love doing the show. I love hearing, you said you like stories. So that's why I love doing this show, because I get to hear different people's stories and everything. And I enjoy that so much. So it's really meant a lot. I've truly enjoyed it. And I can't wait to get the episode out for my listeners to hear.
Thank you so much, Frank.
Thanks for listening to Everyday Martial Artist. We hope you will join us every week for a brand new episode with a different martial artist telling their story. If you enjoy the show, be sure to leave us a review. Also, be sure to check out our website at everydaymartialartist.com. There you can find all of our episodes and contact us to suggest guests and ask questions. Again, thanks for listening to Everyday Martial Artist, and we'll see you next week.